So, my guest today on the shallow end is Samuel Evans. And so, let me say for the first time in the short history of this podcast, welcome back to the shallow end.
I, Dave, I appreciate you having me back. I am grateful that I was your very first guest and to be your very first guest to come back again. So I'm grateful and gratitude for you having me on your platform.
Terrific. It's nice to have you here. We're just going to be talking about a few different things today. The first thing that made me think I want to talk to Samuel again is one thing that's different since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
And one sort of behind the scenes here thing for if you're listening to this is uh, Samuel and I are talking coincidentally 1 year to the date since our first interview aired.
Yeah.
So the Earth's gone around the sun one time since the last time that we talked. One thing that's new with you is you've got an Instagram show now with Jenny Marie's Sports Cards. And I guess it's a two-part question is why did you decide now to expand your content game by doing the show with Jenny Marie? And second, there are many different platforms to do a show. Why did you decide on Instagram?
So first and foremost, right, I have this like unwavering commitment to this idea that came into my mind and my heart during COVID when I got back into cards, and it's called the hobby experience. And every year, for the past 4 years, I create what we call these like New Year hobby revolution like card goals. And the one constant goal that stays on my card hobby like New Year's revolution resolution list is just expanding the hobby experience and finding ways to do that in the most authentic way. And one of the great pillars of the hobby experience is community. And I often say when I talk to people about the hobby experience that the hobby experience is bigger than me, and it's not just about me. It's I'm a part of it, but it's also about people like you, Dave, and then also us as a community. And one day I was just driving in my car, and I thought about someone that I've been on their show many times, rolling with FD, and I called them up and I said, FD, I want to create an Instagram live show, and I want you to help me find a third person so we can rock this out and bring the hobby experience to a live audience so we can talk about our card story from different perspectives in three regions. And obviously, like things change, things go on, and FD and the thing about the hobby, everyone has their pathway and their lane and their direction. So FD is doing his thing on rolling with FD, but he was a great founder to help take me and Jenny to where we are now. And we've been rocking it out for 9 episodes, and not to be so long winded, but the reason why we chose IG, we're both professionals. I'm an assistant principal, soon to be principal. And IG gives me the flexibility to just like jump on and connect directly to the people who follow me, the people who follow Jenny, and just like the audience that we're trying to grow. Um, and we just been painting this canvas and telling this story about the hobby experience through this medium we call Instagram, and it's been real fun and it's been magical, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I love this idea of the three-person booth in a way. So you, um, uh, Jenny Marie, FD. What's been something that has surprised you so far, or gotten you excited so far about the first 9 episodes?
Just our ability to like learn from each other. So like we just don't jump on Instagram and like, hey, here's our show. Like, we like meet, we have a running call sheet, like we're like our own producers. And we put our ideas together, and each week, but every other week, we have this call sheet where we produce our ideas and come up with our themes and our topics. And it's been great and it's been fun. And uh, FD went on to do other things that he wanted to do, and me and Jenny, we're grateful for him for being a founding member of the Every Other Week Cardboard Show. He was awesome. He's a wealth of knowledge and information, and we learned a lot from him. And I think as Jenny and I go on this journey together, we're definitely probably going to be looking to add a third partner, because the hobby is about community, and we want that diverse perspective. So right now, we're just this two man and woman team, and we're having a lot of fun with it, and we get the opportunity to finally meet at the National, um, to host our first show together in the same room. So it's going to be exciting.
Where are you right now as a collector in the hobby? What's changed for you, or what's the same for you? What's been developed more that you were doing
Um,
before over the last year or so?
I want to say just my exploration. First and foremost, I think that's a great question. Just my exploration and taking how I explore the hobby to levels beyond my imagination, whether it's writing, whether it's creating content, whether it's, going to different places, card shows, card stores, to social media and connecting with people from different hobby circles, just to tell my story, and then also listen to other story, so that way I can expand how I experience the hobby, in the most authentic way. So it just gets deeper and deeper for me every year. And then also, I still have those individual moments where I get those big cards that, just take my nostalgia to levels beyond my imagination. And then, in those moments, just finding ways to explore and share that card with the great people of our community in a variety of ways, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's through articles, or whether it's through face-to-face conversations. So, I think that's where I'm at, and I'm just having so much fun, and having the opportunity to write for Tops this year and being a recurring writer for them. I got some pieces that's in the pipeline that's going to be produced soon. My very first article was about Wilt Chamberlain, so I had a lot of fun with that and exploring that journey with him. And my second favorite card out of his card catalog. So it's been a magical ride.
One thing I love that you said, that you were talking about, hey, you still enjoy those big cards. But I think what I want my listeners to know is that when you talk about big cards, you're not just talking about value in terms of price,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you say big card, what do you mean?
So yes, value and price, that plays a role in it, but for me, that's not the entire story. It's the personal connection. It's something connected to my first hobby run. It's something connected to pop culture. It's something connected to maybe 6 degrees of separation of like, oh wow, you are related to that person that I collect, and here's what they've done to me, and here's how I looked up to them as a kid, and learning about their story, and my prowess in terms of how I feel about their career as a player and who they are as a person. And I think all those things just balled up into one, creates my hobby experience, and how I explore cards and share cards and talk about cards or talk about players that's on the cards. That mean a lot to me.
You when you post, it kind of hits me right in the feels. And you recently posted a 1987 Bo Jackson
Yeah,
PSA 8
yeah,
pop 80 million, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And yet, those are the types of cards that think speak to a generation of collectors, right?
yes,
Without even having it in front of me right now, I can picture what it looks like. The future star
yeah,
thing in front of it. He's looking to field catch a ball in the outfield.
yeah,
I can imagine him running along the wall the way he did that one time in Kansas
yeah,
City, trying to get that right. Um, So what types of cards now are speaking to you? Last time we talked, you had just acquired, I think, the Wilt rookie, or it was
Yeah.
incoming. It was incoming. What types of cards right now get Samuel's attention?
So, obviously, vintage cards, they still pull on my heartstrings. And it's not even like the big, big, big vintage cards that we all know in this era that we're all chasing, but even those like lower level ones, cards like Mini Minosa, those types of cards and those types of players who don't get the recognition that they deserve. But prior, like as I still, go down that pathway with vintage cards, I've also been on this like deep exploration of like 90s cards, and I just finished this 10-part series called my 90s cardboard love story. And just cards I found at local card stores or hobby shows or even in my own collection made me go back in time and explore the good, the bad, the ugly about cards, but also my life when I wasn't in the hobby. And just taking that journey has been like real powerful for me, and just having fun with cards that may not have like a huge like ROI, return on investment, but the nostalgia creates an amount of wealth that you can't put a price on that. And I'm just grateful that I get to do that, because one, it's therapeutic, it's empowering, it's liberating to be able to like write and put your thoughts on paper, and also to like go back in time and explore certain things that may be like connected to certain cards, from that time when I was collecting or as a kid, or cards that I missed out on. And it's been fun, like exploring like some of my most um, important '90s cards that I love.
So I recently wrote a piece for the first time in months where I sat down and actually wrote something. And one piece of feedback I got was, you wrote like actual words?
Hmm.
Because so much is consumed now through the eyes and through the
Yeah,
ears, video, audio, and not so much through the reading. People don't have the time, or maybe it's
yeah.
the attention span or the interest or whatnot. What kind of feedback do you get to the things that you write?
I get a lot of feedback. A lot of the funny part about it is I started sharing my articles with my students, and just another way to like get them involved in like literacy and wanting to learn and read and engage with different things. And a lot of them would come to me with such great feedback, like, yo, Mr. Evans, you went in on this article. Like, I really loved your passion. And just like the style in which you wrote, and how you care so much about Wilt Chamberlain. Or they was like, you know what, Mr. Evans, I needed more passion in this article. You left that passion out. And just to get that honest feedback from my students has been fun. And then even like some people in my close circle who don't collect cards, but just like, hey, tell me what you think about this story. And it's been fun to get that feedback. And then also on the other side of working with corporations and navigating that space, and they having one viewpoint on how they see readers, and then me as a writer having a viewpoint on how I think readers are. And like, yeah, people have short attention spans, but there are also a lot of people out there who love to read. And as we like grow the hobby, I think we really need to like tap into this niche, when it comes to writing about cards and writing about experiences. Um, because it's empowering. It's empowering. I think it's another way to draw people in and get them connected to the hobby and wanting to learn more about the hobby. Because sometimes in those like 1 minute or minute and 30-second reels, you can't encapsulate everything great about the hobby and everything magical about the hobby. And I just think card organizations and card companies need to invest more into this side of like writing and this medium, because I think that it's going to be the wave that continues to expand and grow the hobby for the better.
Yeah, and I'm going to stay with this thread just a little bit longer. The I'm not a neuroscientist, but the way that people process things when they read, it's different.
Yes.
And I mean, you being a principal, congratulations
Ye-
on becoming a principal. But
Yes. Thank you.
the way people process information when they read is different from how when it's just being sent at them, right?
Yeah.
It's more interactive.
Yeah.
You are asking the mind to think, you are asking
Hmm.
the mind to consider things and to contemplate, whereas if it's through a screen, it's being shot at you
Yep.
in a
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
Um, the things that when you do write, what is your process for putting together the things that you write, whether it's an article or an opinion or whatever else?
This journey of writing has, for me personally, has been so rewarding because oftentimes when I get into the zone and I write, I just put everything on a paper, right? Well, not like physically writing, but I type everything on a paper. And then I go back and I do that first read, that first reread, and I'm like, oh, I need to move this sentence down. I need to move this sentence up. This doesn't make sense. Well, this is a thought from another for a future article. So let me take that out. And just going through that journey of creating, like, not a masterpiece, but something authentic that tells who you are, and something that like pushes a reader to like tap into your experience and figure out like, oh wow, that was empowering. Oh, that's something to think about. I'm inspired by that. Oh, I'm intrigued about by cards. um, and for me, that's the fun part, like critiquing myself and being honest with myself when I critique myself, and then also like thinking about the readers, who cross paths with my article, or find them, and just figuring out how, you know I can be vulnerable and tell a story, but I can also make it fun and engaging.
I love what you said about a relationship with the readers. And one thing that came to mind first is I work with a wonderful colleague who once said, "We don't write to show people what we know. We
Yeah.
write to figure out what we think."
Yes.
And then whatever comes out, that's what we think, and
Yeah.
then that is considered. You mentioned the relationship with readers. Reading is a time commitment, right?
Yes.
It's time commitment, and when somebody makes the time to sit down and blocks out the noise of life, whether it's work, kids, mortgage, who knows what, that is such a reward for
Mhm.
the writer to know that, okay, all this time that I put into this was not for nothing.
Yeah.
I think so. Good. It's exciting to me to hear that you are continuing to go down this path, while at the same time supplementing it as well with the show that you're doing with Jenny Marie.
Yeah. Reading and writing is I always say like three of the greatest forms of liberation that any human being could partake in is control what you eat, put in your body in terms of like food and consumption, and also control what you put in your mind and your heart. But reading and writing, because it takes your mind to places that you never thought it could go. And there are days when I put together sentences, or I go back and do rereads and rewrites, and just to be able to explore, words, and how to use words, and how to tell the story about cards in so many unique ways has just been so much fun. And oftentimes you think like, I mean, how many times I can write about a card? But that's the great thing about it, because each time I look at a blank sheet of paper on my laptop, that journey is just like, oh wow, I didn't think I can like get this out of my heart and mind, and thinking about the different experiences. Like this one piece that I'm working on, I'm going to start working on part three about it. Was my first experience at a card show at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, which has never been done in Philadelphia. I don't know why card companies don't do shows in Philly. And I was just exploring like the equity, the access, the everything that show created for like that unknown population of collectors who might not have those experiences to go to big regional shows or national shows, but you have a show right in the heart of Philadelphia that all you got to do is just jump on SEPTA to go to or walk to. And, just writing about that experience has been so rewarding and fun. And I'm looking forward to telling the story of part three, and putting that out to my readers in the coming weeks.
Sure. Would you mind sharing now, as you talk about the different types of information that you're sharing, the content that you're putting out, why you're putting it out? If you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about what you'll be doing at the National.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So it was up in the air whether I was going to the national or not. And this is why relationships are important, and this is why like connecting with people. Oftentimes I go back to this idea that I introduced to the hobby called human capital, right? And the way we build community and connect with others, listen with others, and tell our stories and pour in. And just having some experiences with some dealers and some folks who was in charge of like sponsoring different events with the Philly Card Show. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've been thinking about like we're partnering with the Nationals. We're thinking about this collector experience throughout the week in the Nationals, and your name came up a couple of times, and we want to do some projects with you." Um, and I was like, "Oh wow!" And it was like, we'll take care of getting you here and everything and putting you up. And I was like, this is why like words are powerful and important. Like this is something I spoke into existence like 2 years ago. Like that was one of my goals, like going to the national and finding a way to contribute to it and tell a hobby experience story, and not just going there to experience it as a collector, but going there to get others to see what the experience of collecting cards could be like and feel like and sound like beyond the transactional thing of like exchanging money. And I'm just looking forward to partnering with Marino and his group and creating that collector experience so folks can have the opportunity to tell their stories, show their cards, and you know just experience nostalgia on a different level as it relates to collecting.
sure. So since we last talked about a year ago, the skeleton of Samuel is still there, but the meat around him feels different, right? There are different
Yeah,
things going on. If we had a crystal ball in front of us and you looked ahead another 365 days, and let's say we
yeah.
talked again about the same time of 2025, can you even begin to forecast or predict or think about where you might like to be a year from now?
I think about when I came into this space in the middle of COVID, I think about all the people that I met. And I think about all the people who contribute to me and getting me to who I am now. Some of my great friends like Peter Pac-Man, Naka, Prism God, like all these great people, Marino, so many great people that I crossed paths with and was able to like break bread with and connect with and get to know. And each one of them played a role in growing this concept, called the hobby experience through our conversations, through our moments of talking about cards. And, as I think about the next 365 days, I think for me is um, I always told myself if there was another industry I would work in, it would be the card industry. I love education. I don't see myself going nowhere anytime soon. But I think for me, thinking 365 days ahead is just trying to find ways to partner with organizations to create equitable access to a lost community of collectors who look like me. Um, because there's been like, and the reason why I say this, like on the last day of school this year, I brought in multiple boxes of cards, like extra cards that I have, and I shared them with my students. And to see boys and girls gathered around the table who've never experienced cards but heard about them. Or some of them came out and said, "Oh, I collect cards," and to be confident and happy about it among their peers. I think that's the next level of like growing the hobby and ensuring that, for a population of black and brown people who look like a majority of the people on cards, that they have an opportunity to experience and explore the hobby.
And I would think too, to understand it in a way that it's, beyond the value, not that the values don't matter, right?
Yeah,
But, you don't always have to be striving for, the one of one black prism
yeah,
5 to 6 figure card to really enjoy.
yeah,
On the front of the card, there's the back of the card. There's all these different parts of the card that make up what the experience is.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
And it was fun, like going through that experience, seeing kids pull like, and these were like 90s and 80s cards, right? Seeing them pull like Shaq's rookie card, like classic skybox cards, and like all these different players that like they heard their uncles and their relatives talk about, and to see the smile and magic on their face, it was powerful. And I was just like, this is what organizations need to see in terms of like community engagement and figuring out like, if we truly want to 10x the hobby, right? These are terms that you hear so much, like 10x in the hobby. I always say, coming from the educator stance, is like, how can we 10x the community? Because the only way to truly 10x the hobby, we got to 10x the community, and we got to think about the engagement side of it. And I think that's the work that I do as an educator. Like every day, my job is centered around how can I get kids to engage in their learning so they can enjoy it, so they can explore and expand their thinking, their critical thinking skills, tap into their deep learning, and have those metacognitive experiences as learners. So that way they can understand the world that they live in. They could explore different types of books. They could explore their talents. And I think that's the pathway that a lot of organizations need to like truly think about in a fundamental way. How can we 10x the community? Because the money's going to be there, right? We see it. It's not going anywhere. Like it has its down moments, but that's just how markets work. But to truly sustain the hobby, how can we 10x the community? And like that's what I want to start working on as I think about my next step.
I love how you put that, the idea of 10x in the community, and community can mean so many different things.
Yes.
Well, we have a bit of a hard stop coming up. That's my
Mhm.
fault. So I would be negligent if I didn't ask you about your own collection just a little
Yeah.
bit. And I'd be curious, what cards or what athletes are on your list right now of that you would like to be, that you're searching for, that you'd like to acquire here in the near future?
So big cards, obviously, I'm looking for the Bob Gibson rookie card, the Hank Aaron rookie card. So like those are some of my big cards. Like nostalgic cards and cards like from the era when I collected. I'm thinking about like those classic like inserts and subsets from the 90s. Like I wrote this part 2 of my 90s cardboard love story that's going to be coming out soon. I call it like the catalyst. So this 1993 Topps Finest Frank Thomas card, which was an insert card, it's like the catalyst of like this idea that like the 90s was the greatest era of insert cards. And I will debate and argue with anyone about that. So just like exploring those and finding those and completing some of those sets that often like go under the radar because of the design, and most people don't think they're profitable because they've been mass produced. Um, so that's what I'm looking at.
Got to be honest, you and I might be going head to head here. The '93
Yeah,
finest Frank Thomas is on my list as well.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
a
I'm looking.
beautiful card. It's a beautiful
That
card.
whole set is
Yeah,
amazing to look
I
at.
mean, speaking of it, I can show it to you, but this was one of the cards in my 90s cardboard
Is that
love
the
set.
bow?
This Frank Thomas.
Oh, that is Frank. Sorry. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was the catalyst. So this was I wrote about this in part 2A, and then this was my part 2B story,
Oh, no, that's
the
Bo.
Dream Team Bo Jackson scorecard, which when I saw this at the Philly Card Show, it just melted my heart, and I was like, I gotta have this card.
You know, if that card were about 8 times its size, that would be
Yeah,
in an art museum.
yeah, yeah, very much so, very much so,
Good.
very much so.
All right. So, Samuel, please tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram, where they can find your show, and where they can keep up with what you're doing now.
So you can find me I do a lot of my content on Instagram. The Sports Card Collector is not spelled the conventional way, but you can always type in my name, Samuel C. Evans, Samuel, capital C, Evans. I post I post on TikTok, I post on YouTube, but it's just more like recaps of all the stuff that I do on Instagram. I also write for Hobby News Daily. You can find me on Hobby News Daily, and then I also write for Topps Ripped, and I'll have some stuff coming out in the future for Topps Ripped as well.
Samuel, always a pleasure to talk with you. Take care of yourself.
I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you once again for having me on. It means a lot that you take the time to see me, but also see a lot of the everyday collectors, and to make sure that they truly have a space in this hobby that's so mainstream now. And there's this idea about schools like building a culture of belonging through like dignity, and you truly create belonging in this space we call a hobby on your platform, because some of the people that you have on your show, I'm inspired by their story. And they're not people who have like thousands and thousands of followers, but they just people who have a unique story and they have something to contribute to the hobby. So I just want to give you your flowers and say thank you for creating this medium for people to tell their story.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, and take care of yourself.
Take care.